Hello and welcome to the New City Beat. I'm Barry Gordon.
And I'm Andre Coleman.
And we're going to be talking about all of the issues that affect you as citizens, from the City Hall in Pasadena to the big White House in Pennsylvania Avenue. So what's on your mind, Andre?
First off, man, I'm looking at this jacket and everything.
The jacket, that's what's on your mind.
You kind of have this,
jacket.
it's kind of like a Robert Reed feel to it or something like that. You look good, man.
And a man named Brady? No, I don't think so.
Okay. A man named Barry.
Yeah. It glows. It has like a glow thing
Yeah.
that it does. Okay, anyway. What's up? What do you want to talk about?
Not too much, man. I mean, you know what? I was thinking about you the other day.
Thinking about me?
I was thinking about you.
Okay.
And this is a good thing because you're a Hollywood guy.
Yeah.
And I've been seeing all these names come up in this sexual harassment thing.
Okay. First of all, I am not a Hollywood guy.
Well,
I mean, I
you were the
never hung
president.
out with Hollywood people.
Were you not the president of SAC?
I was the president of SAC.
And you were feuding with Charlton Heston?
I was for a little while, yeah.
Okay. So you were a guy who worked in Hollywood.
Yeah, all right. I'll go there.
We'll
okay.
say it that way. And,
okay.
you know, I've been following this.
But I didn't hit the party scene or any of that stuff. You know.
Well, with that jacket, you may have. But, you know, I was noticing, and I was really happy your name did not come up in this scandal.
No,
right.
It didn't.
Yeah, don't say no like it's going to come up.
I don't think so.
Well, let's hope not. I know it's
I
early,
wouldn't
but let's hope
anticipate
not.
that. No.
But you know what? In your time in
See,
Hollywood,
I never fooled around. I just married a lot of people. So.
And then they sued you afterwards.
No, they didn't sue me. I'd get married, I'd get divorced, I'd get married, I'd get divorced. But, no, I wasn't the type to fool around. I was a serial monogamist.
So, well, that's a good thing. So,
yeah.
This is what I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a
I'm
defining...
already in trouble. Right, go ahead.
No. Is this a defining, changing moment in that industry?
Oh, you're talking about the Weinstein, Spacey...
Will there be accountability now? I mean, where do you see this going?
Will there be accountability? There's nothing but accountability now. I mean, look at what happened. I'm going to use Spacey more than Weinstein. Mm-hmm. Because Spacey had an incident that happened 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. He claims he was drunk. We don't know, but that's what he claims, right? And probably if Spacey had simply apologized, he would not have been in that kind of trouble. But he didn't. He used it and made the most incredibly self-serving statement I have ever heard. He actually used the accusation to come out.
Right.
As gay.
Which puts the two in the same boat, which was a bad idea.
Exactly. And he offended not only all the people that should be offended, he offended the entire gay community because of using something that should have been an abject, groveling on the floor apology, and instead used it for his own personal benefit. And what happened after that? His agent fired him. His publicist fired him.
Lost House of Cards.
Lost House of Cards. That took a little time, right? First, they said, well, we're not picking it up, and this will be the last season. And then they said, well, we're suspending production. Right. And then he was gone.
And they said, we'll do it now, but we won't do it without him. They're open to doing it.
Exactly. So.
And he lost a movie and a Netflix deal.
Exactly. Would that have happened 5 years ago? No. It would not have. The wagons would have gathered around in a circle, and Hollywood would have tried to come to his rescue. And they didn't. Now, let's magnify that 500 times with Weinstein.
Okay. But let me jump back to Spacey for a second
Okay.
and tell you something that I think a lot of the media has missed.
Okay.
If what the man said, he's a pedophile.
Well, that's true. He was 14. Yeah.
And see, that's
Kid
the
was
part of
14.
it that I think a lot of people have missed there.
That's very true.
It's
very true.
There might be a criminality component to this going forward.
Very true.
That has not come out yet.
Very true.
Which is what I think we need to wait and see on. I'm not saying he's innocent of anything, but I'm saying there's another component to this that is being largely overlooked.
But there may be a criminality component to Weinstein because he's been accused of non-consensual sex. And now, I think the New York district attorney is looking into it, right?
I think New York and a couple other places, and I think there's one now they say they have that could stick, and that could see him face criminal charges. I think that we are seeing the ultimate example of what power can do to people.
I think that's right.
And
by the way, I mean, the point is this has existed since,
cameras.
You know, film
Stage.
had sprockets.
Since stage.
Yeah, I mean, this has existed for a very, very long time. The casting couch used to be a Hollywood joke, and it's not a joke anymore. I mean, it literally used to be a Hollywood joke.
Were you ever approached, or did you ever hear stories?
Never.
Never heard stories, or never approached?
I heard stories, yeah. But I was never approached, and I was never personally aware of anyone who was victimized. But I knew it was going on.
Well, you have to.
Absolutely.
I was never in that industry, and I knew it was going on.
And the most disgusting thing is that this is an industry in which beauty is paramount.
They're selling sex.
Right. They are selling sex, right? They're selling sex, I would put it a different way, beauty, right? And so women are told if they want to be in this business, they have to look as wonderful as they can. That's changed a little bit now. You know, you have a star like Chrissy Metz on This Is Us. You have people that look like real people. But still, glamour has always been a huge part of the industry and part of the business and part of success as a woman, right?
Right.
Now, when someone uses that as an excuse, and a man says, well, she was asking for it because look how, you know, she was dressed, you know, and maybe she had a little cleavage or she had a short skirt. That's what she's told to do in order to be successful. So you're putting women in this incredible rock and a hard place situation. How did they do that? And then if they're hit on in a completely abusive, non-consensual way, and the excuse is, well, look how beautiful she was.
Is there
and isn't that what Trump said, by the way?
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
When there's a beautiful woman, I just have to kiss her.
Yeah.
Isn't that what he said? And I do have a question. Why isn't it moving up there? Why isn't it getting to the White House?
I think that if we were in the campaign right now, this issue would hurt both candidates. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama took money from Weinstein. Both know Weinstein. So I think the liberal Hollywood that was pushing for Clinton would take a hit. But then I think if in the very next moment that Access Hollywood tape comes out, I think it could have ended him. I thought it would end him in the election when it did happen.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, it may have been insurmountable.
Well, it clearly didn't end him, and we have to pick this up at
well,
another time.
I'm going to say this.
Go ahead.
I'm still not sure that it's not going to go to the White House. Because supposedly there are tapes from The Apprentice where stuff like this was said by him and went on. So maybe some of that is going to land somewhere.
Okay, well, I'm going to echo Trump when he said, Russia, find the 30,000 emails. So if there are tapes, find them, folks. We'll be right back with the New City Beat.
You got to say that in Russian, though.
Oh, in Russian? No,
See on page 4 that the projections need to be earthquake next Thursday.
Seriously? Thursday? Can't do that.
This is really inconvenient.
I have yoga that day. I have no time for this. So.
I can't do Thursday, but I can do Friday.
Disasters don't plan ahead. You can. Talk to your loved ones about how you're going to be ready in an emergency. Don't wait. Communicate.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
And we're back. And we're back with a very, very special guest. This gentleman, when I moved to Pasadena back in 1995, was the mayor of Pasadena. At that time, the appointed mayor of Pasadena, because things went in rotation. And he became our very first elected mayor of Pasadena. And I kind of think of him as Pasadena's own Jimmy Stewart. This is a man with incredible dignity, integrity, and a real common touch with the Pasadena people. And we all looked to him as our father figure or our brother figure, and we're so thrilled to have him on the show. Please meet again Mayor Bill Bogaard. Mayor Bogaard, it's so wonderful to have you here on the New City Beat.
Thank you, Barry. As you introduced me, I thought perhaps you decided to have some other guest. So I'm delighted to be here, and I thank you for the nice work.
We're really thrilled to have you. So, Bill, what has life been like since you left the mayoralty?
Barry, I can say that after about 2 years of finishing my service as mayor, I have discovered that there's life after being mayor. Mm-hmm. I've agreed to become involved in some community things which are very rewarding at the Huntington Memorial Hospital, the Pasadena Community Foundation. Both of those institutions are so important to Pasadena. Absolutely. It's fun, once again, to be engaged in that way. Earlier this year, I was asked to serve as co-chair, along with a longtime friend, Doug Cranwinkle, as the two of us head the Arroyo Advisory Group, which the council formed in January to study ways in which we can enhance the use and the care and the maintenance of the Arroyo Seco and build public understanding of what's there, the tremendous resource that's there, and how it can and should be used for the benefit of all. You know, the Central Park in New York, which is to some extent a model for what we're trying to achieve and work toward, is about 850 acres. And Pasadena's Arroyo Seco has 1,000 acres. So we have a huge resource, and we need to maintain it better. We need to recognize what's there and make it available in usable form to the people of Pasadena and the region who enjoy the Arroyo Seco.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you say 1,000 acres, because I think most people don't think of the Arroyo Seco as being that large. I don't, you know, I think of it as the portion that I walk in, you know.
I think that's true of many people. They think of the Arroyo as what they do there.
But don't most people think of it as three separate entities, which might be the reason why?
Yes, and the city has some responsibility, some role in that, because when master plans were done most recently for the Arroyo Seco, it's not the first time that planning has been done. This was in 2004. 3 separate master plans were adopted at the same time, intended to paint the future of the Arroyo Seco over the years. We have one for Hahamunga, we have one for the Central Arroyo, and we have one for Lower Arroyo. The Arroyo Advisory Group, which has been meeting now since February, has decided that we will all benefit if we recognize the Arroyo as a unitary natural resource. So when we say the Arroyo Seco, we think of from the forest land on the north, way above JPL, to the south boundary of the city of Pasadena at the South Pasadena Stables. That's the One Arroyo that we want to spotlight and to celebrate.
Now, I know that the LA County Board of Supervisors has been called on to make a decision on what's known as our own Big Dig project, for lack of a better phrase, which millions of cubic yards of sediment would be removed. There's some issue about habitation there. I think 400 daily truck trips, so we have some noise and emissions pollution. How do you guys handle the not only just the, obviously it's not something the city wants at that level, but how does your committee also handle the marketing to let the residents there know that, okay, this is what we want. This is why, I mean, how much communication is going on with the local residents?
When it comes to the sediment removal program, the Arroyo Advisory Group hasn't attempted, wasn't really called upon by the council to weigh in on that issue. Although, as you recall, the city dealt with that in a very serious way a couple of years ago when I still had the privilege of serving as mayor. And the Arroyo Advisory Group is proposing the development of a trail. This involves rebuilding and connecting and completing a trail on the banks of the Arroyo that would go from the very northern reaches to the southern edge of the Arroyo Seco. The question about the sediment removal and its impact on this plan is yet to be determined once Los Angeles County makes a decision and it's once again vetted through the environmental process in the courts. But we're going to do, at the Arroyo Advisory Group, we're going to make the best recommendation we can for a trail that takes advantage of the resource that we have, and we're going to work around the sediment removal.
Okay. We're going to pick up this conversation still with Mayor Bogaard right after this break.
Each day on the streets of Pasadena, there are homeless men, women, and children that seek the basic necessities of life: food, shelter, clothing, dignity, respect, and safety. That is precisely what Friends Indeed offers to the community. Hi, I'm Rabbi Joshua Levine Grader, Executive Director of Friends Indeed. For over a century, our motto has been doing together what we cannot do alone. We operate a food pantry, a day refuge for homeless women called the Women's Room. We distribute clothing through our Norma's Nook program. We offer shelter in the winter months at our bad weather shelter, and we have a homeless prevention program working to keep people in their homes before they end up on the streets. I invite you to visit us, take a tour, and hopefully join our amazing volunteer team. Each day when interacting with our clients, you'll be making a positive difference in their lives and your own. We look forward to seeing you at Friends Indeed.
And we are back with Mayor Bill Bogaard. We've just been talking about the new Arroyo Advisory Group, which has as its slogan, One Arroyo, instead of 3 Arroyos. And I think that's an exciting and ambitious prospect. Let me ask a broader question, if I could. You've left office, but obviously, you know, you're still keeping very much aware of what is happening in our city. So what do you see as the most positive change in Pasadena since you left office?
Barry, when I was still in office, since I had served for 16 years, there was a lot of concern articulated that somehow the world was going to change in Pasadena dramatically and not for the good. I'm reassured about the direction of the city. We have a new mayor who's intelligent and hardworking, who identifies tough issues and takes them on. We have a new city manager, and I have a great admiration for Steve Mermel. We have a council that has maintained a tradition of courtesy and respect for the views of others. In that regard, just focusing on city government, this isn't necessarily a big change, but it's a big reassurance that the city can go on as it should be able to go on with new leadership and continue to pursue the interests of the people.
So you know that I can't ask that without, and Andre knows, without asking the other side.
Would be, what's the most negative thing that's happened to the city, or the biggest change for the negative that you see since you've left office?
The concern that I have about the city, and obviously at any point in time there are challenges that the city has to face. But not only in Pasadena, but throughout the state, we recognize more than ever the difficulty with housing. We can talk about affordable housing, and that's been in the news in recent days. We can talk about the rental rates that keep going up to the point where it jeopardizes hardworking people with good jobs. We can talk about the price of land, and we can talk about the complexity of land development. I would say that one of the biggest issues facing Pasadena is the question of housing and accommodating all of the people of the community, the people that we embrace and want to be a part of the community, the people who make this city a wonderful place to live and to learn and to be involved.
And when you were mayor, did the issue of rent control ever come up?
The issue of rent control in Pasadena in modern times has come up every 5 or 8 years. I know the views on that are quite sharply divided. But in the end, after discussion, the consensus of the council was almost always that rent control is counterproductive. It's counterproductive in terms of creating additional housing because investors seeing a top limit on what they can earn from their investment back away. And I think people in Pasadena are concerned about the reputation that Pasadena would have as a community that puts government ahead of the people.
If the city doesn't take steps to stabilize rent and housing, are we in fact working with developers?
City Hall has a responsibility to adopt policies that are balanced and not strongly in favor of one segment, one public interest over another. Pasadena has a reputation for being too friendly to developers, as we know from controversy over some of the projects that are going up. But among developers, Pasadena has a reputation of being anti-development because of the complexity of land use rules and zoning restrictions. There is in the development of real property and its use and exploitation or in local government a natural tension between the various interests. So I think that a policy like rent control has to be considered in a full context. Does it really work in the interest of developers, in the interest of persons of lower income, in the interest of the community as a whole? And so I say that it's possible for the city to continue setting rent control aside as a policy of the city without falling into a trap of being totally pro-development.
What do you think is the answer?
I wish there were a simple answer. Governor Brown this fall has signed, 10 or 12 new housing bills, and the import of several of those bills is to constrain what local government control there is over the handling of housing, the building of it, the care for it, and so on. And I know that council members and members of the community are concerned about the imposition of state values over local control. But nevertheless, government is a activity where pragmatism has a very important role to play. What opportunities do you have? What resources are available?
Right.
How do you solve the problem or at least mitigate it? And I'm hoping that that these laws, which encourage, for example, the creation of granny flats, second units on existing residential properties, and certain other limitations on the way in which land use approvals are given for new development, that they'll have a positive impact. But generally, I'm pessimistic in California because the population increase projections are very high, and the record in the last 25, 30 years, maybe more, of building new housing units is low.
I mean, if rents keep going up, and I think we are usually in the top 3 to 5 now in the state, and we keep building housing, then at some point, isn't it possible we'll be building housing no one can afford to live in? Or many won't be able to afford to live in?
Well, you know, there are economists who would say that if you build housing, it brings the price of all of the housing down, right, because there's a larger supply. But it doesn't seem to work that way.
Not at all.
And the cost of construction does go up. So, you know, people say about San Francisco that it's a community of the very rich and the very poor. And I'm afraid unless something changes, that Pasadena will be subject to a similar criticism.
So are we victims of our own success?
Yes, to some extent. To some extent, you know, we talk at City Hall about the importance of making sensible investments, of having a strong economy, of supporting arts and culture, sure, the quality of life in general. But as we increase the quality of life and offer a stable and enjoyable way of living in the city, more people want to be a part of that. So it's this concept of gentrification, which I struggled with many ways and many times. There's no simple answer for it. If you're trying to improve things, right, the result of the improvement can be that fewer people can access it.
Well, I really appreciate your candor on this. It's a difficult subject. I think we're going to be visiting it quite a lot.
Over and over
and over again.
And it needs that kind of attention.
Yeah, and it does. And obviously, you know, Santa Monica has taken a different approach. You know, we ought to talk to people to see whether they feel that's worked.
And there's a big rent control movement in Glendale now, yeah, that's going on.
It's true. It's true. So things change. But we're so glad to have you with us on City Beat. Thank you so much. I wish you the very, very best, you and Claire. And,
thank you very much.
And thank you for what you're still doing for the city of Pasadena. We really appreciate it.
Always great to see you.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to work with you, as it always has been.
Thanks. Well, that's it for us. I want to thank Mayor Bill Bogaard for coming here. He's just amazing, isn't he?
Great job as always.
Yes, always. I can see why he got elected and reelected and reelected. We hope you're going to join us the next time for the new City Beat, where we're going to have another great guest, important subjects, and of course, we want to hear from you. And you can do that by going to pasadenamedia.tv/newcitybeat. And you can find us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and all kinds of places. So please, for me, Barry Gordon, and
Andre Coleman.
Please join us next time for the new City Beat.